Welcome to Lighting for Profits.
All light.
Powered by Emery Allen.
Get rid of your excuses.
Your number one source for all things landscape lighting.
That's where the magic can happen. You can really scale a business.
We really had to show up for each other.
From lighting design, install, sales, and marketing.
You're a scaredy cat salesman, Kurt.
We discuss everything you need to know to start and grow a successful landscape lighting business.
What do you think a hippo has to do with your business, Ryan?
Usually it's some weird childhood thing. Some bully kicks your butt.
I think the key factor here is trust.
Here is your host, Ryan Lee.
All light. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the number one landscape lighting show in Turks and Caicos. We are going international today. Absolutely love doing this show. Love hanging out. And look, if you're looking to start or grow your landscape lighting business, I'm not sure that there's a better place to be right now. This is the place. We're here to educate and motivate to help you dominate. So, guys, got a great show lined up for you today. I'm super excited. We got Mr. James Solecki coming on with Island Villa Lighting. And I say excited, but am I? I was like, wait a minute. What do you want to talk about, James? And we're going to talk about something that I feel like is a little bit against my religion. Like I was not born this way. And so, but I actually think it's a super awesome topic. And we're going to talk about, I think we're phrasing it like how to stay small, but win bigly, something like that. So James has an awesome resume of work in the lighting industry and provides a lot of value to the industry and just happens to know a lot. So I'm like, dude, let's go. So stick around. You're not going to want to miss this episode. There might be some controversial things that come out of it. Okay. Just kind of teasing that a little bit. You get me and Solecki in the room, we might say some things that piss some people off. So I'm excited about it. Just as a reminder, guys, we got Secret Summit coming up. And if you've been on the fence about joining Landscape Lighting Secrets, now might be your best time because we're coming out with Landscape Lighting Secrets 2.0. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And we're teasing it because it's not ready yet, but we are launching it this summer. And we're going to launch it at Secret Summit, which is our members only event here in Park City, Utah, September 9th and 10th. So if you're like, yeah, maybe I should join. Well, maybe you should. And then you can come hang out in Park City. Also, guys, thank you so much for your reviews. I was actually just reading a review today that we got. I don't know if we got it today, but this was unbelievably valuable. Thank you to Marvel Nerd 99 on YT. The information I've gleaned from Ryan and other industry titans on this show is worth thousands. Huge thank you to you and all the guests you've had on for sharing your wealth of knowledge. Keep the episodes coming, my friend. You got a big fan here in South Carolina. Thank you for that awesome review. Really, really appreciate it. Marvel Nerd 99 on YT. So that's awesome, guys. Thank you so much for your reviews. It keeps me going, and I really do appreciate it. So if you've not jumped on the bandwagon, we're still accepting your 5-star reviews. Also, do want to thank Emery Allen for their support, really kind of over the years now. And what's the best way to stand out of the crowd? Well, being different. So set yourself apart from others in the lighting industry and impress your customers by installing Emery Allen lamps on your next project. You'll discover a higher level of quality across the board, from the lamps themselves to the top tier customer support you can expect to get if you have any questions, issues, problems. Right now is a good time to make the switch. All you got to do is email Tom G at emeryallen.com. He will hook you up with your discounted contractor pricing. All you got to do is mention Lighting for Profits when you email Tom G at emeryallen.com. And again, he'll get you that discounted contractor pricing. Don't waste your time going to their website. Get their single source LED, which is like a super clear LED, guys. It's hard to explain until you see it in person. So go check out that. Just email Tom G at emeryallen.com. Okay, guys, again, just a minute. We're going to have Mr. James Solecki come on, and he is actually live from Turks and Caicos right now. Like, how cool is that? That we are going to have a conversation. I love technology. I'm grateful for it. Sometimes you hate it, but sometimes you love it. Today, I love it. And James and I are going to talk about his success in the lighting industry without this like big mindset of you have to grow, right? And you have to be the giant and everything. So I'm excited to have him on. Before I have him on, I do just want to mention one thing. So last week I had a fairly busy week. I've been trying to control my time and say no to lots of things and just really be intentional about everything I do. But, some weeks are busier than others. And a lot of coaching calls, a lot of strategy sessions, and it felt really good. Actually, I did not regret that week. It was awesome. And I was reminded after I got off one of these strategy sessions with someone of a speech that I heard, I actually saw by Myron Golden. And if you don't know who Myron Golden is, just look him up on YouTube. He's a super awesome guy, super smart, talented marketer and stuff like this, business guy. But I was reminded of this because at the end of this strategy session, this person really they said they wanted to join the Landscape Lighting Secrets. And so we kind of went through everything and like, here's what you get and here's what's expected of you and here's how we deliver it and all this stuff. And at the end they go, wow, I really want to do it, but I just can't afford it. It's just too expensive. And they said they'd have more time to work on it and more money in a few months. Right? Have you guys ever heard that from your clients? Like, now's not a good time or it's too expensive. I'm like, wait, what? What are you saying? Right? And I was reminded of this Myron Golden speech because I was at this conference and it was ClickFunnels had this conference. There was probably 5,000 people there or more, maybe 6,000. And Myron's up on stage and he goes, hey, what's your two biggest expenses? And, I'll ask you guys that, like, if you're listening right now, what's your two biggest expenses in life? And, for me, I was like thinking, well, different stages of my life, sometimes it might be your mortgage. As a business owner, it might be payroll, might be just materials. I mean, those are the things that come to my mind. And he has like this paper he's writing on. He's like, number one, and he writes down number one, and number one is taxes. I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about because I actually agree. It was taxes. He's like, you got personal taxes, property taxes, income taxes, employment tax, self-employment tax, employee, like all this stuff, right? Capital gains. And he's like, by the time you actually like earn money and then make it and then like pay it all out, you're really paying about 50% in taxes in your life. It's like, dang it. Like, why is he right? But I think that was right. I agree with it. Taxes, number one. And he goes, and then what's the number two? And then I was like, well, it's got to be the one that I'm thinking of. It's got to be one of these, right? And of course, I was wrong. And he writes the second one, and he says, the cost of not knowing something. The cost of not knowing something is my second biggest expense. And, really, there's lots of different ways to phrase this and word this, but it could be, you maybe have heard the term opportunity cost, right? So what is it costing you to not take action on something? Opportunity cost doesn't show up on a P&L. It doesn't show up on these financial analyses, right? Let's say you're considering attending a lighting conference. What's the cost of going to it? Well, it's, the dollars, the time, the airfare, all this. Well, what's the cost of not going to it? Like, what's the cost of not having a conversation with someone that potentially changes the trajectory of your business, your life, your career, whatever, right? What's it costing you to get education on better lighting design, on other products, educating yourself on anything, reading a book, right? So is it the cost of that $15 audio book, or is the cost of not listening to that book? Or maybe it's the cost of listening to it and not implementing what you hear, what you listen, what you learn, right? And I was reminded of this because I'm like, wait a minute, like if this person doesn't join my coaching program, like they're going to be fine. They figured it out this far. It's not like if you don't join, you're going to die, right? But maybe you will. Like, I am so obsessed with helping people that I truly know that if they don't move forward with us today, we can't change the trajectory of their life. They're going to continue on that path, right? We had this training a couple weeks ago in Landscape Lighting Secrets. Jonathan Wisman, he's the author of The Sales Boss, this book, and it was awesome. And one of the quotes he said was something like, you can have 10 years experience in business, which is basically 1 year repeated 10 times, or you can do hard things and have 10 different years experience, right? And unfortunately, a lot of people are living that same year over and over and over and not progressing in any manner, right? And so I just want to encourage you guys to do hard things. Time truly is our greatest asset. It's interesting because it's our greatest asset. It's worth the most to all of us. But then everybody in the world has the exact same amount of time every single day, and it resets every day, right? So no matter how rich, no matter how poor, like we have the same amount of time. So what are you doing with your time? And the wealthy people, potentially the people that you look up to, they've figured out a way to leverage their time, right? And I say wealthy, let's say wealthy, happy, like insert whatever you're striving for. The people in ahead of you, what have they figured out? They've figured out how to leverage time. That's it. And so, how much time are you spending scrolling? How much time are you truly spending working and doing hard things? Like do the hard things, guys. Everyone wants a vacation, but isn't willing to pay for the trip. And I've seen that time and time again. And it's true. I do too. I want the vacation. I don't want to pay for the trip. But I've also learned that you got to pay for the trip. Like that's what has to happen. So if you want to be in shape, start working out. Okay. I started doing push-ups a couple years ago now, and now I do 150 a day. And there's some days it's so easy. It's like a habit now, and I just do it. And then there's other days where I'm like, dude, I don't want to do them. I'm tired and I did all this stuff and I don't want to. And I do them because I don't want to do them. Okay. Because I want to be in shape. You want to be happy? Then give more time to others. You want to make more money? Rob more banks. Okay. There's ways to make more money without robbing banks. But if I'm just asking this, if I were to come out with bank robbing secrets, would you be interested? And the key to making money is do the hard things that you don't want to do, guys. Maybe it's hiring someone. Maybe it's role playing your sales process to get better. That's awkward. It's so awkward, right? Maybe it's asking for referrals, which can also be awkward. Maybe it's calling on a landscape architect, which can also be awkward. Like do these hard things. And I promise you guys, if you will get comfortable being uncomfortable, you're going to find yourself having more success. And that's what it's all about. Just moving the needle, getting a little bit better every single day. So anyway, that was on my mind. And that person, by the way, has not joined Landscape Lighting Secrets yet. So, but I was reminded of that story, and they might, I probably wouldn't bet money that they would. It's like a 50-50 chance at this point. So if it was like a 70-30 chance, I'd put money on it, but probably 50-50. But, it's not for everybody. Not everyone's ready all the time. And, people need to make decisions in their own time, and they need to be ready for it. And we're here when you're ready. So enough about me. I'm ready to get to our guest, Mr. James Solecki. If you guys are here live, let us know. And if you guys have questions, throw them in the chat as well. And if you are here live, we'll try to get those over to James. Let's get this show on the road, huh? Welcome, Mr. James Solecki.
Hey, Ryan. How you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm fired up. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this for weeks. Ever since you gave me that call and said, you know what, that thing I said at conference, I want to do it. Let's put you on the show. I'm like, all right, finally.
I loved it. No, yeah, I think it's going to be a good discussion. I think we tend to get kind of the blinders on, and whatever we're doing in our life, we think that is normal for everybody. And then when someone does something different, it's kind of like, wait, what? Like, why would they do that, right? And so I'm guilty of it too. It's like, hey, I've got my way. This is what I've done. This is what's worked for me. Why would you do anything different? But I am always open to ideas. I love learning, and I think you offer quite a bit to the industry, and interested to hear some of your perspectives. So it's gonna be awesome.
Cool.
Maybe just do a quick introduction of yourself. You've been on the show before,
Yeah.
but for those people that don't know you, just a quick introduction of who you are, how you got into this industry, and why you're in Turks and Caicos right now.
Well, my passion for lighting started a long time ago. I was 14 years old. I got an opportunity to join what essentially was a community theater. And my role in that was to run the lighting, stage lighting. So I fell in love with it right away. By 15, I was the crew chief of the lighting crew of this theater. By 16, I had spawned off into mobile live event lighting, concert lighting, band lighting, stage lighting. Got right into it. And then life happened. I went away to university, did a whole bunch of stuff. And after my first failed business, I happened along this lovely young lady, and Kate, now my wife, she was like, you know what, I really like you, but man, you need a job. And so she introduced me to her father, Alan, and Alan owned and ran Adam Irrigation and Lighting in Burlington, Ontario.
Oh,
And
wow.
he hired me. He hired me basically as like a summer laborer, and I started doing irrigation work, and I wasn't very good at it. Wasn't very happy with it. And after flooding out a underground parking garage one night, oops, Odeker boy, that's me. He said, maybe you'd be better at landscape lighting. And I'm like, what's landscape lighting? Do people pay you to put NOMA moon rays like in the ground? And he's like, get in the truck and come with me. By this time, he had won several Landscape Ontario Awards of Excellence. This is a long time ago, so there wasn't like LVLIA or ILI or any of these great organizations we have now. This is back in the early 90s. And so he took me on a tour, and I was blown away. I just got the bug immediately. So I started doing that with Alan for a little bit, and then life took another turn. Ended up marrying his daughter, so that was good. And when we needed to make a move out of Toronto, we moved up to Muskoka, Ontario, which is like lake country. So I had a chance to open my own business, which I did, Integra Lighting. Owned that for 24 years, and built a really good career up there doing landscape and then architectural lighting.
Nice. So you really wanted to be at first just a stay-at-home husband? Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, no, that wasn't really the plan. No, that wasn't the plan.
So that's awesome. So you start the business, and how did it go? I mean,
it was really rough, man. Like, for a few reasons I'll get into. We were in a super affluent summer market. Best described as 16 weeks to live or die. We had 16 weeks a year to sell your year and essentially install your year. And it was affluent in the summers. These are beautiful homes. They call it the Hamptons of Canada for a reason. But the rest of the year, there's no market. So I struggled at the beginning, and then I had to adopt architectural and interior lighting in order to give me winter work.
okay.
We're also in Central Ontario, so the winters are brutal. It was typically, we were closed November 15th, and we would not, on a good year, we would open April 1. Some years it was mid-May before we could open again. So a long winter. So anyway, I persevered, and I figured some things out, and I'll get into that too. Sometimes we can't always grow along a spectrum of growth and bigness as prescribed to us by so many different models, approaches, and coaching and ideas. There's a whole bunch of reasons why some businesses are destined to be small businesses. And by small, I love how the government just defines small. Oh, are you under 100 employees? Oh,
I think it might be 500.
Yeah,
Like,
it's crazy, right? And I'm like, I'm
business.
under 2. I'm under 2 employees. Is that small? Do I count for a package? So the market was tough, but we made a go of it. We did very well, built a great business, great clientele, and got and joined everything there is to do with landscape lighting. I got involved in every association, every group, sat on most of the boards, wrote code for municipalities, invented product, developed product, perfected product. It's been a great run.
Yeah, very cool. So at what point did you decide to, I'm not even sure actually if I remember, did you sell that business and move to Turks, or what happened with that?
Actually, I did. We had an opportunity to open a business down here in 2015. But I wasn't, I wanted to prove the proof of concept before I picked up my life and my family's life and moved here. So I ran both for 3 years. I commuted for 3 years. I did 2 weeks here and 2 weeks back in Ontario, and built this business here slowly, built it on cash. And once it was proof of concept was here, we sold the Integra in Ontario.
Cool. So maybe let's talk about that. How did you sell a business that was a small business? that was under
I
500
I
employees?
sold it very smallly. Yes, it was. I had I had accountants. I had all these people telling me what my business was worth, and at the end of the day, a business is worth exactly what you can get for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes those numbers are going to be shockingly low. My sale price was shockingly low, and at the end of the day, it gave me the opportunity, just what you talked about in your preamble, man. It was the if I had held out for a higher price, which could or may have never come, and we would have ran right into COVID, I wouldn't be here or there right now. I'd be bankrupt. So everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer in opening your mind and your eyes to opportunities and not letting them slip by, doing the hard things to make that opportunity. You see an opportunity, I'll tell you one thing, man, it's never going to present itself again. If you don't take it and do the hard work and do the hard decisions, that opportunity's gone. And so this opportunity came up, and it wasn't easy. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Opening this business here was the hardest thing ever.
Wow.
For so many reasons, but incredible opportunity. And if we hadn't sold Integra for what we sold it for at the time, we would have lost another opportunity. So, opportunity cost is a really big thing. And I think in some ways, the smaller you are, your operation is. I mean, the more aggressive you have to be at doing the hard work. Not necessarily on the end of a shovel, although there's that too, but the hard decisions. They're harder when you're small because you don't have the cushion that you might have. You certainly don't have investors behind you or any financial cushions other than if you built one. But you also don't have the people cushion that can step in. I can't tell you how many times I would get on a plane, I'd leave Turks and Caicos, I'd land, I'd turn my phone on the runway in Toronto, and there'd be a phone call down here. Hey, James, where are you? We got a problem on a site. I mean, I just landed in Toronto. When are you back? 2 weeks. Not going to work. Turn around, spend a night, get on a flight, fly back down here, put the fire out, turn around, get on a flight, fly back there.
Wait a minute. When are you going to get to the point where this is what we should do?
No. All right. So that's my story. That's how I got here. You asked, awesome. Not me.
Yeah.
So that's the story. What I want to talk, so often I see there's so many small businesses out there, and so much of the programming and advice and books and seminars and coaching and it's all very much focused on growth. It's like growth is the magic word. You got to grow your sales. Once you hit 1 million, you got to do 2, and then you got 4, and then when you're going to be at 8 million. It's about growing your staff and growing your operations. You got to get bigger. You got to get to a point where you replace yourself. All these catchphrases and terms, but not everyone is predisposed to be able to do that. Took me I did coaching. I read the books. I tried so many things, and for a long time, I was just often disappointed that I couldn't bring those concepts and processes to fruition. Sometimes I blame others, instead of blaming myself. But it took me a really long time to realize that built into me, the guy I am, for a whole ton of reasons. Bottom line, I got trust issues. I am a fully mature adult before I come to a reckoning with this. I'm challenged at trusting other people's with that which I care for the most. My business is my business, and to trust someone else to do it as good as I can, or as completely, or to talk to the clients the way I talk to the clients, to have my design eye or any of those tasks, I'm held up by that process. So
which I would say this though, James, I'm pretty sure everybody feels like that. Like you start a business and it instantly becomes your baby, and like no one can outsell you, no one can out serve you, like no one can out design, like whatever it is, the thing you're doing. Like we all feel like that getting started. Like we're the best. We can't replace ourselves, right?
Yep. So there's all sorts of reasons why some people can't follow that path. I touched on one. I mean, I got notes over here on the other screen. Sometimes it's market conditions. I had brutal market conditions in Muskoka. They inhibit traditional growth strategies, right? Limited revenue season, limited market for what you're selling. You know, I was selling to a market of 40. I think there were 45,000 people lived in my region. You know, Toronto's got 6.2 million people. That's a way different market, 3-hour drive away.
Yeah.
Limited labor pool can really inhibit your ability to grow a business. Where, you know, you've got a labor pool of 45,000 people, all the amazing ones are working. and the ones that are left maybe aren't well suited for the jobs you have available. So that can really inhibit your ability to grow a business. Personality traits, passion plays. Not everyone out there is a people person. Not everyone out there is going to be able to manage their own people. They might be horrible at it, actually, or they might be, you know, one of those, you know, sort of savant type inwards. You know, they're what are the words? They're reclusive a little bit, introverted personality.
Yeah.
Makes it really challenging to have a CEO who's reclusive and introverted, right?
Well, I think this is one of the things that people underestimate about, like, okay, I'm going to start my own business. And we think we're starting our own business because we love landscape lighting, right? But what we're really doing when we're saying we want to start a business to grow, and I don't know if this supports your case or doesn't, but if you want to like start a business to grow a business and not have like a job for yourself, you do need to hire people. And in order to do that, you got to be a good manager. And I would say 95% of entrepreneurs are not good managers.
Yeah.
It's like they're different traits. So that's why I would say, like, exactly, I agree with what you're saying, James, but then hire the manager to be the manager so that you don't have to do it, because we are terrible managers.
Yep. Well, it can be a thing. So there's lots of reasons why not everyone is going to be able to fulfill the mission of growing big. So then, you know, once you've assessed that, and you know, some people also, maybe they were involved in a small, big business in the past and they didn't like it. Maybe they're just not interested. Maybe they're end of career people that have already had a career and now they've decided to own their own business for their sort of sunset career. And they're not interested in building a big business model. They need the keys to success too. So that's my whole message here. So then we need to help everybody, right?
Well, and would you say, like, I think for a lot of people, it's not that the end is always the same, but I think starting with the end in mind is good, because, like, for me, when I started, I didn't know that, like, I had a marketing degree, I had an MBA, and it never crossed my mind that I was starting my business to sell it. I was just starting my business because I wanted to pay my mortgage and I wanted to do something fun and not work for somebody else. I truly was probably going to go down the path that you are talking about. It was like, I just want to own a job. I just want to work for myself. That was the only thing. But then, you know, as I started to learn things and I see things and I meet different people, I started to go, well, man, I wonder if could I sell this business? And I would say this, I mean, if your goal is to sell your business, I mean, you have to build a team. Like there's not much to sell when it's just a client list, for example. You know what I mean?
Agreed on that. I would say if your path is one of, you know, staying small or succeeding while you keep the organization small and manageable for yourself, don't have big dreams that you're going to be able to change that or lever that into something that someone's going to pay millions for, because there's simply not. You don't have the structure that generates millions. What you can do, and what I would advise it doesn't matter what business you're in, if you're small, get processes. Make sure you have your processes documented. That is something of value to what you will find is, if you're at a point where you want to sell your small business, and some guy comes along who doesn't have any experience in that realm or is interested in buying what could be a low entry point, well-established business, by having your processes documented and in place so that they're duplicatable, so that the next person who owns this can build on your own success and all your lessons and everything you've learned.
I love that.
Super critical.
Yeah, I love that. I think, yeah, regardless of what the end game is, like build those processes. I'm just going to translate for everyone who's not from Canada. That means process. But basically,
we'll
like,
get to niche in a bit. Don't worry.
yeah, niche, what? But like that's one of the things I'm like, people will reach out to me like, dude, I want to sell my business. I'm like, why? And they're like, well, you did. I'm like, dude, you don't know my story. I didn't even want to sell my business. Like I basically was breaking up with my brother, right? And if you want to sell a business, like you have to go even bigger than what like I did. Like a one location business that has a small team is not going to have the same multiple that will a multi-location business that actually has more systems processes. So I say build your business like you're going to sell it, and then don't sell it. Enjoy the mailbox money, enjoy the fruits of your labors that took you so long to build it up to that.
Yeah. So we need some strategies for all these hundreds. What do we got now? 5. For all these hundreds of people that have come to a realization that, hey man, I might only ever get this thing to be like 3 employees and me. Some strategies. My number one thing that you gotta understand is profitability is king. It's the first line item. Every single action, every task, everything you do in that business has to be profitable. You cannot afford to be giving anything away or not realizing the cost of providing a good or service within a small business, because your opportunities are, well, it's time. The limiting factor, which is the same everywhere, but it's amplified more when you're in a very tiny business, people, is time. We only, time, that's my number 2 thing. Time is your most important asset. If you're not being paid to do it, stop doing it immediately. You can build up to a point where you can be charitable and you can be giving and use your time differently, because you've got to a point and you have a reputation and people know you that even when you're giving and even when you're using your time to benefit others, that it's being actually seen as a benefit, and it becomes a marketing type thing where people go, that's amazing. That company over there just donated a lighting system to this park so that the kids are safer in the evenings. But when you're getting going, you have to be profitable. That's the most important thing. Know all
James,
of your numbers.
What did you do to like a lot of people, especially in those first, I'd say 3 years and maybe up to 5 years, they don't understand what you just said. And they're willing to give deals. They're willing to do everything just to get revenue.
Yeah.
How did you, like, what are some tips you can give us there on like how to command that profitability, how to be in charge of your time?
Never, ever, ever discount.
Well, that's so simple.
You can give it away and you can never get it back. Once you have lowered your price to your neighbor, that's your new price. So never discount. Your dentist doesn't discount. Your lawyer doesn't discount. Your accountant doesn't offer you 20% off because he's a nice guy. So never discount. Just straight up, charge a fair price and what you need to survive. And when people ask you for a favor on price, or, James, this is our 3rd year with you. We've got a great relationship. How about we get 20% off this year on, zone 4 or whatever you're doing? I would just be completely frank and say, look, I'm not here to gouge. I'm not here to take advantage of anyone. And I know exactly what I need to stay in business, to run a solid business, so that I'm here for you next year, that I'm not out of business. And if someone else can offer it to you at a discounted price, you may take that, but it might be a really foolhardy thing to do, because they might not be around next year after a 5-month winter or whatever your market dictate. So never discount. That was
Love it.
number one thing.
Do wealthy people ask for discounts?
Sure, they do. Yeah, absolutely. I've been asked for discounts from everyone, from a lady who needed a $2,500 pathway done to a guy that ended up, we did just over 15 acres of lighting for it. So yeah, everyone, there's no rhyme or reason to that. You just have to be polite and have a rational reason why you don't give them.
I love that. It's such a hard lesson for people to learn. I ask everybody for a discount. Like if you come to my house and try to sell something, I'm like, all right, cool. Well, can you do it for this? And like I do it now kind of to test their abilities, but I actually respect them more when they hold to their guns. And I'm like, heck yeah, this is my guy. He's like, I'm like, this guy's awesome. So if you give you too big of a discount, you're like, what? Like so you were just gonna like overcharge me? Like that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, there's that too. And then there's the other school of thought, which I have never subscribed to. And I think part of it's just because I can't, because it's wrong. And that is, well, James, just don't tell anyone. Just mark up, get your number, and then add 20%, and then go to your call. And then when they ask for a discount, you can offer them, 10% off. And if they're happy with that, you just made an extra 10%. Or if they have, there's just no ethics in that. I don't want to be treated like that by anyone who comes to my home. So the last thing I want to do is behave like that. That's just bad business.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I put myself in the perspective of the buyer, and I'm like, usually when I ask for a discount, it means because I want to go with them. Like I'm not going to ask for a discount if I'm not going to go with them. Like I'm like, all right, send me the thing, we're done, right? So a lot of people think, oh, they're asking for a discount. I'm slow. I got to get work for tomorrow. Oh man, I got to feed my family. I got to do this, and so they're willing to do it. But it's like, no, that's like one of the best things you can hear from someone is, hey, can you do it for this? That means they're ready to go. Like just tell them no in a polite way, like you said, and sign them up. Let's go.
Another thing you got to do when you're small, and I don't mean like sole operator small, like my staff have fluctuated, but I've never had more than 3 staff straight up. So that's pretty small. You got to be efficient. It's time management, but that's not the only efficiency. So by focusing on larger jobs, you're making a more efficient use of your time and therefore building more profitability in each job. It can take longer to sell the small job than it does to sell the big job. You can do more trips to site on a small thing, because at the end of the day, that client is probably on the outer edge of their ability to afford this. Whereas when you're focusing and making the hard decisions, I got a great story to tell you in a minute. So when you're making the hard decisions by focusing your small efforts on big projects, when you land them, you're using your time more efficiently. Instead of 10 items on a purchase order, you got 110 items on a purchase order. You still got to type out the purchase order, right?
Yeah.
Instead of sending a wire transfer for $1,000 to pay a vendor, you're sending a wire transfer for $10,000. It's more efficient. So when I started my business in Muskoka, I was driving a truck. I was a full-time truck driver. And I started INTEGRA with the idea that it would supplement my income. And, my wife was pregnant with our first child, and we had a mortgage, and I had this good truck driving job, and I started INTEGRA, and the phone would ring, and I was advertising on bulletin boards and stuff. This is almost pre-internet. So we'd get these calls, and I'd answer the call, and someone say, hey, I'm looking for a lighting system for my back deck. And this comes down to qualifying and being efficient. And I'd say, oh, where's your home? And this before Google Earth, any of that. Oh, it's 123 Sesame Street in town, right? And I'd say, okay. And what do you? Oh, I want to put some lights on my deck, and I got a party coming up in a couple of weeks. And my response would sort of be, well, I'm super busy right now. I could probably get out there in a month or month and a half's time to take a look at it if you're interested. And they'd be like, oh no, I just said, we got a party and we want you to come out. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I won't be able to help you. Right. And I'd hang up and my wife was like, what are you doing, man? We just opened a business. Someone wants what you do. And you literally told them no. And I said, I remember saying this, how many $5,000 jobs would I have to do a year for us to make $50,000 profit? I'd literally have to do like 200 jobs, right? You'd have to work every single day, $5,000 job after $5,000 job. That is not an efficient use of my time. But how many $50,000 jobs do I have to do, to make a good living? Oh, 10, one a month type of thing. So from the very beginning, I focused on those larger jobs. And it didn't take very long before one came along. And as soon as you've done one, they had a party too. They had a wedding. And their builder went to that wedding. And
Nice.
The Monday morning, the phone call came and the builder had another job for me. And that builder turned into 9 other jobs. And then if I'd accepted the $5,000 deck project, I would have been doing $5,000 decks all summer long. I accepted doing the $35,000, cottage job, and I ended up with a backup of, very large landscape lighting projects to do.
Yeah.
So be efficient on your marketing and what you want to do. Only do
I
the
like
work
it.
you want to do.
I have a hard time imagining you as a truck driver. We need,
I drove a
we need
truck
to
for
see-
10 years.
That's awesome. We need to see some photo evidence of this. That's cool.
I drove a school bus first.
That's awesome.
Big yellow school bus.
I'm going to put together some type of lighting event, and we're going to get a big bus, and we're going to see if we can hire you to drive us around.
The people who know me best will tell you the stories of the bus years.
That's awesome. Well, you're totally right. We've been fishing a lot lately here in Utah. We've got some property right by this lake, and the fishing is phenomenal. And we're trying to catch these bigger fish, and I've learned, like bigger bait, bigger fish, and that's essentially what you're talking about here is like, if you're fishing for if you're doing $5,000 jobs, your referrals are most likely going to be a bunch of $5,000 jobs,
Exactly.
35,000, 50,000, whatever. I'm curious it makes sense how you laid it out. Like all of a sudden they see it and then the builder, and then you can talk to them. But how do you get started in that? Especially when you feel like, who am I? I'm just some small company and no one knows who my brand is. And like, how did you break into your first handful of big projects like that?
Well, the very first one came to me. Another awesome story, actually. I'll never forget this man. So he was in a little village at the grocery store. He saw my piece of paper with one of Al Marichuk's photos from Burlington, Ontario, my father-in-law. I borrowed a photo. I had no photos. And he pulled the little piece of paper with my phone number. He called me on the phone, asked me to come out to his cottage. And his name was Todd. And so I went out to this guy's cottage. He was a young guy. He was 1 year older than me. So he was 31. He happened to be a director of an IT company back in those days. And he had just bought himself a $3.5 million cottage. And I meet him and I jump out of my beaten up old truck. And he goes, so you're the lighting guy? I said, I am. Yes, I am. I said, how can I help you today? And he goes, well, I got scotophobia. And I just looked at him. I'm like, what? And he goes, it's a certifiable fear of the dark. So I need this entire property illuminated. And I mean, he goes, I don't want it bright. I know what landscape lighting is. I want this entire property lit because, I have scotophobia. He goes, one other little thing, I'm getting married here, an outdoor wedding in, 3 weeks' time. I'm like, wow, okay. Well, I don't know if I can get it done in 3 weeks' time. He goes, well, get me some numbers. So I did not a drawing. I did a proposal, pen and ink. I didn't even have a computer, man. Pen and ink, stayed up all night type thing. Got back to him the next day. It was like a $26,000 proposal. And I'm tired. I've been up all night writing this thing up on graph paper. No kidding. And I show up in the morning and we're walking through it. And he goes, this all looks great, but what about behind the garage? I said, well, that's the septic bed. Like, you're not going behind the garage. He goes, man, I literally told you I need everything lit from the gate to the dock. I said, all right, can you give me 20 more minutes? So I grab a pen and I go back there, and a lot of downlighting. I come back to him and he goes, where are we now? I said, we're like 32 grand. And he's like, okay, all right, I'm fine with that. He goes, so you have this in by my wedding? And I said, absolutely not. I can't do it. There's no way. He goes, what's the problem? I thought you were a lighting guy. I said, well, I actually drive a truck all day long. And, this is my evening and weekend gig. And he says to me, remember, he's a year older than me. He says, you got to make a decision in life. Are you going to be a truck driver or are you going to be a lighting guy? And I said, well, you know what, sir, this really is probably easy for you to say that standing where you are. But, I got a mortgage. My wife's pregnant, our first kid, and this truck driving job's they pay me pretty well and with benefits and all the rest of it. And he said to me, how much did they pay you to drive that truck? And I used to not tell people, but I so long ago, I don't care anymore. And I said, well, they pay me 35 grand a year. He pulls out a checkbook. He writes a $60,000 check. He says, there's 30 grand to drive the truck and there's 30 grand to do my lights. He goes, if you cash it by 9 a.m., I assume you've quit your job.
Oh my God.
And that was how I got my first big job.
Holy cow. Dude, that's epic. Did you did you quit the job?
I did. I went home. I said, I can't decide this. I have to talk to my wife. He goes, you go talk to your wife, but I need to know by 9 a.m. I got to find someone else. So I go home to talking to Kate, and she's just like, wow, like, what? I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is a decision you need to make. And then Jerry Maguire, the movie comes on TV. I'm sitting there watching Jerry Maguire, show me the money.
Show me the money.
Show me the money. And by the end of the movie, I'm crying. And I look at Kate and I said, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow. So I go into the job at 8 a.m. and I didn't have time to give him 2 weeks notice or anything. I probably should have, I regret that, but I did what I had to do. Quit the job, handed in the uniform, was out of there by 9 a.m. Called up my vendor, my wholesale company. I'll get to that in a bit. There's a cue in there for staying small and being loyal. And I called them up and put in I called him, I cashed the check, I put in the purchase order, and I had the system done on the Thursday before the wedding.
Oh my gosh, dude. So he gave you runway. He gave you the ability to make a decision.
Yeah, like an angel.
Yeah, that truly is. Because most people in that situation, they stay there for so long. I think, I don't know why I was fortunate. I only did that for a year. I had a job for a year while I was starting my lighting company and then pulled the trigger. But I think, I don't know. There's no right answer for everyone. I'm sure you look back and are eternally grateful to, was it Todd?
Yeah.
Shout out to Todd for
shout out to Todd.
That's freaking awesome, man. That's so cool. I think I want to do that for somebody. When someone comes to do something for me and I'm gonna do that for them one day. That just gave me an idea.
It's sort of like paying it forward in the best way possible. Without that guy, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And but that's not just that. And people go, oh, you're so lucky. Oh, you've got all this bestowed upon you. I take it back to being open-minded, and I really, really believe in serendipity, which is a really hard concept for a lot of people to grasp. I think if you walk around with negative thoughts and negative ideas and feeling downtrodden a lot, that gets out. You sort of surround yourself with an aura of negativity. People see it. I've had periods in my life where I was really unhappy and my close rate would dive. People don't like to be around that. When you're open-minded and you can see opportunities and you're excited by them and you take them, it breeds this incredible positivity around you. And that's when more starts falling, and serendipity is wonderful. We've been blessed by it by at least 3, if not 4 times in our life. We're just a moment where things are falling into place,
I love it. Yeah. I mean, the whole luck thing, I've never met someone that's that lucky that isn't also coincidentally a hard worker that believes in, positive mindset and opportunity. And preparation and all those things. It's like, okay, whatever your definition is. So that's awesome, man. That's so cool. There's so many people that struggle. I don't know. Like, I feel like, so take me for example, these last few years since I started doing this, the people who have been in the industry a long time tend to go, what the heck? Who's it? This guy's bringing in these people into the industry. He's bringing truck drivers in. Like, how does someone determine whether it's good or not to enter the lighting industry? I mean, you were a truck driver, you know what I mean? Like, and now you're like this very established, highly respected lighting designer who's got amazing projects under his belt. Like, I just think it's awesome. So how does someone know when they're coming into it? They hear about landscape lighting. Like, how do they know if they should take it serious, if they're meant to be a lighting designer the rest of their life?
So I got some words to say on this for sure. And it's not just lighting. I had an opportunity for a number of years to coach 15-year-old high school students in a career paths course at their high schools. It was a really cool opportunity. And so I had to come up with and I did it for a number of years. So I talked to hundreds of kids about, career paths and entrepreneurism and all these concepts. And I distilled it down to do what you love to do. So how do you know whether you're going to be a great lighting person, have a successful business and be able to last go through time and enjoy it? Do you love it? Do you love it? I think if you're passionate about it, a lot of the other, all the other people can go away. If you're passionate about it, I don't care where you come from or what you do. And how does that passion displayed? Willingness to learn, a willingness to listen, a willingness to let us old guys who've been doing this for 30 years help you not make the same mistakes that we all made. We didn't have these forums and the internet and groups and associations and design programs offered by manufacturers and were passionate. There wasn't a lot of passion in the room, man. So if you're passionate about it, I don't care if you're a plumber, a roofer, a truck driver, a lighting person, doesn't matter. That's the key. Love what you do and success will follow you.
Yeah, I love that.
People love to hire passionate people. I can't tell you how many times I've had a proposal out and the clients had a couple other bids because that's what they do. That's fine. And they're like, you know what? You were like 35% higher than the other guy in price. But we've decided, we don't want anyone else to do this job. And I'd be like, well, why is that? Well, for one thing, we never talked to anyone who's as passionate about this as you are. It's, literally all you talk about. Like, your heart is in this, and we can tell that you're going to do the best possible job you can do. And so we think that's worth it.
That's awesome. That passion truly is contagious. Like, you can say all the right things and not be passionate about it, and it's going to come across completely different. And when you're just speaking from passion, people have no choice but to go with you. They'll find a way to pay that 35%, 50%, whatever it is. Like, they'll find a way to go with you for sure.
And there's nothing wrong with, this, and it's no secret. It's nothing I invented. But people say all the time, well, man, how do you have the balls to, pardon me, how do you have the nerve to present some of these proposals? I've presented some crazy proposals. And immediately, rather than put up with any kickback, we just say, look, you tell me what's most important to you and let's do it to the best of our ability. And then zoning, that's what it comes down to. Break that proposal down. Go in with that proposal zoned as knowing that you're going to get pushback on it. Knowing immediately. So even if it's a suburban front yard, even if it's a $12,000 proposal, go in with it zoned in 3 mini zones. So that if you get hit with the pushback on that client, you can say, no problem at all. You know what? I get it. You had only thought you were going to spend $5,000 on this, and I'm blowing your mind at 12. Why don't we just spend the 5? But let's spend the 5 really, really well. And you'll get them immediately. And more often than not, as soon as the 5 is spent and put in the ground, they're going to call you 2 nights later. They're going to call you back up. You know what? We want you to finish this job. It's amazing. We love it so much, you know? And you didn't do anything wrong. I mean, we didn't rip anyone off. You did a great job and you're rewarded for it, but in loyalty.
I like that. I know a lot of people struggle. They'll try to take that budget and spread it out.
Yeah.
And then the client's disappointed going, well, this doesn't look like the pictures you showed me. You know, this doesn't look like your website, your magazine cover stuff. It's like, well, yeah, because you were cheap. And it's like, now they're blaming the client. And it's like, no.
Yeah, I always lay a rule. You can sort of tell, you know, after this long, you can sort of tell when you've got someone in your first presentation and they're sort of going, whoa, this is gonna be expensive. So I always tell people, look, I'm going to break this down into achievable zones based on geography or features or whatever. And one thing I ask, we can play around with what zones you want to do, but one thing I won't do is we don't play around with the zones. Like nobody ever told Monet how many brush strokes to put on a painting. So I don't mind you not doing a zone or two, but let's not muck with the zones, right? Don't start telling the lighting designer how many fixtures it's going to take to light a blue spruce, right? And if you're upfront about it like that, people will take you more seriously on your bid too. I found if you put things in terms of art and get it out of the realm of contracting and put this whole business into the realm of art, it translates easier to the clients because, well, my clients, a lot of my clients are used to buying art, and art's not priced like decks are priced. Let's face it, right? So
yeah, that's a good point.
You know, we're doing art, you know, price it as such.
Yeah, well, that's cool. It gets them out of that mindset of like that. Now they're not in the home improvement category.
Yeah, exactly.
If they're in that category, it's like, yeah, it's probably going to be under 20 grand. You go to art, it's priceless.
You don't know what it's going to be until the artist tells you, right?
That's cool. I like that. No one ever told Monet how many brush strokes to use. I like that. What are some other advantages to staying small?
Advantages. Well, being CEO is great, especially when you got no one under you to, you know, push back.
But aren't you the worst boss ever to yourself?
No, I've learned to be a great boss to myself. I really have. I'm
Lately,
thoroughly enjoying things now.
I think you have. I mean, I have only known you for like maybe 5 years, and I feel like you are a good boss to yourself. But like early on, were you that good, or did you torture yourself?
I worked my ass off. Yeah. It was tough. I'm not gonna lie. It was 100-hour weeks for real. Like week in, week out, April to November, 100-hour weeks. That's 16 hours a day, 7 days a week to people who are a little slow on the math. It was a grind, but it wasn't that way forever. And then I finally hired my first employee, and so now we'll talk about that. Absolutely hire people. You can't do this alone. So hire great people. I'd learned the hard way. Piecework and subcontracting when you're small don't work. And why? Because the people willing to do that work are too entrepreneurial. And you're just going to be teaching your competition how to be small and successful. So either the person willing to do piecework or subcontracted installations is too entrepreneurial, or they're so non-entrepreneurial that they can't manage their money without a salary. Those are the two realms I found. So subcontract out the stuff you hate to do. Bookkeeping. You might not be big enough to have a bookkeeper on staff, but you can certainly go to Fiverr and find a freelance bookkeeper who will put in the 3 hours a week your little company needs to keep the books. As you grow and you incorporate, yeah, absolutely, you're going to get accountants. You have to. But marketing, you know, I did it all for way too long. Get that out to a great social media, you know, like a website, social consultant to handle for you. I waited way too long to do that. And when I did it, it was such a relief of hours. I wasn't efficient at it. I wasn't very good at it. And it doesn't cost a ton of money to farm it out. So get rid of those admin tasks that you don't actually like doing, and but get them contracted out. You don't have to grow big enough to support the salaries of in-house people. So that's
Well, and
that's
those are categories that tie into that opportunity cost, bookkeeping, marketing. Like when you try to do it yourself, it's costing you more than the money it would cost you to hire someone else, because that's not the thing that lights you up. Like the thing that lights you up is going and doing designs and meeting with people and selling jobs and installing jobs and changing people's lives. So people just screw that up, the expense versus investment. They're like, oh, I can't afford that, James. I can't afford to hire a marketing company. I can't afford to hire these people. In reality, they can't afford not to.
Yeah, I had a great friend of mine, Paul, told me years ago, also an entrepreneur, arguably way more successful than me. And he's like, James, if you're doing the job that you'd pay someone $20 an hour to do, you're earning $20 an hour, straight up.
Yeah.
So, don't be afraid of hiring people. That's how you're going to become more profitable. Scheduling, you got to schedule like a demon, and you don't let anyone muck with the schedule. That's what I did. My schedule was the guidebook to the week, and I would schedule to the half hour. And then once you get practiced at keeping a schedule, one great thing, you're never late, because you're addicted to the schedule. So you're not late. You're not showing up 20 minutes late for a sales presentation or a proposal delivery. You're not wasting your client's time. And then when things come up, you've already prioritized your time into profitable segments, so you don't get distracted by the little things that come up. You need to push it down and make a hard decision whether you're going to do it at all or not. So scheduling is super key.
How often do you stick to your schedule? Let's say you've got your 2 weeks planned out. Someone calls, James, I got to meet with you. This is going to be a huge project. I need you there Thursday, 3:00, but you've got something with your wife scheduled. Maybe you've got another meeting with a marketing company. Like, how do you prioritize your schedule?
It all depends on your stage. So back in the early days, if it was a conflict with a social thing, I would bump the social thing for the business thing. The key was to grow the business, make the business a success. Ask my clients. I'll say the number one thing that set me out of all the rest was the service, the attention to service, getting there within 24 hours, being on time. That was all key. Now, later in life, I've seen enough come and go. And I also now greater than ever appreciate my time, put a value on it, know how important it is to my health and my well-being to take my time, and that it does have value, that I'll take each one as it comes. But I really schedule tightly, and I don't let things get in the way of that. I don't go 2 weeks out. It's usually a week out.
Yeah. Yeah. I've found that for myself too, is I value my time a lot more as I get older. I used to just do whatever. I mean, if you asked for it, I'd be there, I'd make it happen, and I'd just move things around. But it adds so much chaos, anxiety, and stress to your life. You can't operate at a peak level. When you learn to value your time and hold it, you'll find that people also respect that, and they value your status and your authority. So it's like, I can't do that, but I can do next Tuesday or Thursday. Oh yeah, let's do that. And again, it kind of goes back to, like, can you give us a deal? And you feel like you have to give them a deal. You don't have to meet their demands all the time. Of course, there's situations where it's like, no, literally they're leaving the country for 2 months. This is your chance. Okay. I might change it. But a lot of times you'll be surprised when you just push back, like, I can't do it. There's no way I can do that, but I can do next week. Oh, or sometimes they don't know that you're willing to meet at night. And you're like, well, no, there's no way I can do that, but I can meet you at 7 tonight. Oh, you work at night? Heck yeah, I work at night. I'm a lighting person. Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh, that's awesome. And then both decision makers are there, whatever. I mean, a lot of times there's advantages by just holding your time. So that's cool.
Another thing to do is along this same topic, really, it's finding your niche, or niche, as you guys would say. What I mean by that, you're already a small operator, so don't try to be everything and do everything for everybody. Right? You find a segment in this incredibly big, diverse business that you're passionate about, so that your passion comes through for that. if I tried holiday lighting for one fall, I did it great. Oh man, I did this one project. It was that I rented a Zoom boom before anyone was renting Zoom booms. I lit this place. It was magnificent. Why I never did it again? It absolutely grated on my soul to take it down. It was like this creation, and it was a fortune. It was a small fortune for the client. And then he's like, Christmas was over, and I get the call, "Hey, when are you taking all this stuff down?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I was thinking April." And he's like, "I'm thinking January 3rd. Like, when are you going to be here?" And I hated taking it down. And deep down, I hated it. Not the work, just the whole notion of creating something and then having to remove it. So I realized that that's not for me. So focus on your niche. You'll find your niche, what you love to do most, and do that. I dabbled in product. I invented one of, if not the first line of LED lamps for the landscape lighting industry, and invented the first IC driver for miniature LED lamps. I got into product pretty big. I had contracted factories and electrical engineers, and I was running this whole thing on the side of everything else. And at the end, I sold it because I came to the realization that inventing product's fun, but selling product, it's not for me. For me, it was boring, right? It wasn't anything I was passionate about, the operating of a product business. So I'm happy to design stuff for people. That stuff's fun, but I don't like doing product. So find your thing in this industry and stick to it. If you're going to be small, you only have a limited amount of resources.
Yeah, I like that. Well, it's like I think it's called shiny object syndrome. So, now it's like it was holiday lighting. Now it's like permanent lighting.
Right.
And then it's the color changing stuff. And then outdoor audio is getting bigger, which I'm not saying don't do, but like a lot of people are using the new thing as an excuse not to succeed in their main thing.
Right.
And it's like, instead of hitting their revenue, their whatever their goals are for their business, they're like, oh, instead of like trying to figure this thing out, I'm going to take the easy path over here and ride this wave. And then they never find, it's like that guy told me the quote, they're going to just live their 10-year experience. Every year is going to be the same every 10 years for 10 years in a row, instead of like really doing the hard thing, like figure out your process, figure out what you're good at, figure out what your passion is, do that thing really well. And then if you're an expert at that and you've got your process down, sure, like bolt on audio, bolt on this, whatever you really want to do. But I just see people really distracted doing lots of little things and not doing one thing well.
So here's one that's going to probably raise some eyebrows. So one thing I did, great idea for anyone with a small business, get a volunteer board of advisors in place. It's sort of like a board of directors. You can't call them that because there's legal issues, but volunteer board of advisors. I had one for 10 years. It was 5 of my best clients. These were all captains of industry in their own right. I was given the idea at a business forum. I was sitting on a panel in front of a high school class, and this business consultant beside me, like a coach, basically. The last question on the panel was, give us one piece of advice that all small business owners should do. I'm sitting on the panel trying to think of, what should I tell these kids? And this guy, Jim Stewart, next to me, says to me, "Oh, everyone should have a volunteer board of advisors," or he called it a board of directors. And I'm like, that's a really good idea. So I wrote it down in my notebook, and then the next week I'm like, well, how do I do that? Right. So I called up one of my clients. I said, "Hey, Peter, would you mind being on a board of directors for me?" And he goes, "Well, I can't do that, but I could be an advisor. I'd be happy to help you." I'm like, "Awesome." He goes, "Who else are you going to call?" And I threw out, "Oh yeah, call this guy, call this guy." Within a week, I asked 5 people. I got 5 yeses. So for 10 years, we would meet. I'd borrow a boardroom in Toronto. I'd limo the guys in. I wasn't playing around. I didn't want to waste their time. 2 weeks before the meeting, I'd send them my agenda. It was typically a 3-hour meeting at a boardroom. And it took me a few years to open the books up, but for the first few years, it was all marketing and sales and product ideas and all this stuff. And they coached me.
That's awesome.
It was life-changing.
How often were you meeting with them, this 3-hour meeting?
Once a year.
Just once a year. Okay.
Yeah. These are busy, like serious captains of industry type. accounting, land development. One was not a hedge fund, venture capitalist. Really smart people. So that taught me how to be open and listen. Because the year I opened my books to them, that was crazy. Because I'm opening my books to my clients, right?
That's nerve-wracking. Yeah.
And it was nerve-wracking. And one of them took exception. He had no idea how small I was. And he was like, "Oh my God, if I'd known how little you were, I wouldn't have wasted my time. This is ridiculous." And he got up and walked out. And I was offended. And I was shocked. And then one of the other advisors went and got him and called him back in. He calmed down. Then he went through things, and he taught me, "You'll love this, Ryan." He's like, "All right, tomorrow." He goes, "If you don't do this, I will never meet with you again." He goes, "Tomorrow, you're going and raising your prices by 25% tomorrow. Everything, labor, materials, everything. You're raising your prices tomorrow." I'm like, "I can't. I'm already at the top of the market. I can't." I'm like, "Nobody's going to buy." My close rate went up. That's all there was to it. As soon as I did that, it changed my life. Right?
That's so cool. That's amazing. So it's actually just so genius. Like, I remember meeting clients, and I did not do what you're talking about, but I would always ask them tons of questions, and I'd call them and I'd meet with them, and like I would just like they were so successful. Like, why would I not try to get help? But what was cool is they thought I was cool. Like they were like envious that like, dude, this is so cool. You get to go and like pick the brain of all these successful people, and like you guys do the coolest job and you're outdoors. They're like envious. They're like,
Everyone should do this. Everyone listening, everyone who's going to watch this tomorrow or next week, go get yourself a volunteer board of advisors and pick them from your clients. People you respect,
so
people who
good.
have built big businesses. I guarantee you, unless they're completely not a nice person, they're going to agree to it. Just don't waste their time,
Yeah. I like that you're organized and you have an agenda and all that stuff. You can't just show up and be like, "All right, sit in this room." But
No.
I don't know. I imagine you probably got referrals from them too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The referrals have always been, when it comes to marketing and being small, you're not Mercedes, you're not taking out TV ads, you're not putting billboards up in the communities. And even the cost of like a major door, I never did door hangers because I've never lived in an urban market, but I listen to some of these guys and the costs of their marketing efforts, and I'm like, wow, that's insane. Another thing that I would encourage every small business to do is read, it's old now, but read it anyway. Seth Godin's Purple Cow teaches you how to be remarkable. When you learn how to be remarkable, what that means is literal. It means people will talk about you. And when you get your clients talking about you, you can stop advertising. And you can invest the money necessary into your job to make your client tell everyone they know about you. And there's your marketing for the year. Referrals are everything when you're small.
Love it. Well, as we kind of land the plane here, anything else that you want to leave for the listeners today on staying small, winning bigly?
Nope, I think I covered it all. Look at that.
That's awesome. Well, it's cool, man. It's kind of interesting because in a weird way, we actually are like talking about the same thing. Like a lot of the stuff you talked about, I was expecting it to be maybe a little bit different messaging. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but and maybe I don't know what a small business is. I'm like as long as you're under 500 employees by the IRS, you're a small business. But I think for me, like the shared message that we have is around profitability. It's around building a team. It's building those processes. And the goal, I believe, of every entrepreneur should be about freedom. If not, then why do this? Unless you're just so passionate that you like working 100-hour weeks your entire life. And besides, you might not be able to do that. What if you get sick? What if you get hurt? What if you want to go on vacation? So that's the goal.
You have to, as you mature into your business, my business looks nothing like it did 10 years ago. Nothing. We're way smarter.
Oh yeah. Well, that's where, hopefully people out there listening are not doing the same business every single year for 10 years to get 10 years experience, and they're actually making changes, making moves, and it's not easy. Gosh, it's so hard. It's so hard, especially when you hire someone and they don't work out the first time,
One other really quick tip, it's really important, at least it helped me. Find as few vendors as you can. Find one great distributor, if you will. I know there's a lot of companies going direct and all that. That's fine. They're good too. But my point here is loyalty. When you're loyal to your vendors, they're going to go the extra step for you over the course of a long term. And it's going to help you be profitable in your small operation. So I've been blessed. Well, I've given a lot of loyalty in this path to manufacturers and vendors, and it's reciprocated. They really help. They help you out when you need help. I've had in Ontario, my distributor that I used the whole time I was there. By the end there, man, they were jumping through hoops and not to keep me happy, just because we were friends now, and they were helping. So it's really important in the lighting industry. We have so many inputs and possibilities. Narrow it down. At the end of the day, you need 5 fixtures to do most jobs. Get loyal.
That's well said. How do you do that? Because in my experience, it was the same thing. We started off with really awesome distributor. They're local, became friends. They'd bend over backwards for us, Then we started buying direct from Garden Light. They were also a loyal relationship, just not right there. They can't do what a local, distributor can do. And so we actually had both, and we had loyalty with both. And then it's hard because you got new manufacturers, you got new products, and how does someone determine how do they stick with what they know and keep these limited products, or do they want to shoot for the stars and be lighting designer of the year and use 50 to 56 different styles of spotlights on a project?
Yeah, I've always, Bill Laughlin taught me a long time ago, man, that the fixture is just the toolbox that holds the tool. The lamp is the tool. The fixture is the toolbox. The art comes out. The art is in our hands, right? So, for an uplight's an uplight's an uplight, as long as you're buying quality stuff. You want to make more money in this business? Buy better quality stuff. But that loyalty is super important. And when you're small, the last thing you want is 50 SKUs on your truck, because 2 years from now, something's going to break and you're moved on, and it's just a nightmare. Loyalty is a good thing to stay small and profitable.
Love it. Love it. Well said, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on here. I really appreciate it. Great conversation, and let's keep it going, man. Of course, you're active in the Facebook groups. I'm active there too. So thanks for coming on here, guys. And if you guys didn't learn something, then that's on you. So go back, listen to it again, take some notes. Lots of good things. And I just thought it was kind of ironic. I was like, wait a minute, we're speaking a lot of the same language here. So I think
See,
a lot of the principles.
You don't have to be afraid of me, Ryan.
I was like, why are we doing this? Why are we telling people to stay small? But I think, honestly, a lot of the principles are true. Regardless of whether you're going to stay small and whatever your version of small is, the principles remain true. So great conversation. I appreciate you, James.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's been fun.
Okay, awesome. All right, guys, everyone have an awesome week. We'll check in next week, and don't forget, keep moving forward.